Welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And in this episode, we're going to find out who exactly would win in a fight between the Wonder Woman villain Ares and the Thor villain Loki. Now, we pit Wonder Woman and Thor in one of our earlier Duel episodes, Wonder Woman versus Thor, and now we have their enemies going head-to-head.
Yeah, this is going to be an awesome match. Two gods going against each other. Now, I know who Loki is. I don't quite know everything he can do. And I'm looking forward to seeing, the differences between these two. Because we know that they're both really powerful.
Right.
But who could win?
Yeah, I have no idea who's going to win. And of course, we're doing this duel matchup because in our previous episode, we reviewed the Avengers film, the first one, and in that movie, Loki was the villain. So this is a great tie-in to that. So look forward to that matchup later on this episode. Before we get into that, we're going to go over the comic book movie news from the past week, of which there were a few items. We learned that Andy Serkis is going to be directing the Venom sequel.
Huge! It's huge!
Cloak and Dagger from the Freeform channel are going to be making a guest appearance on the Runaways show on Hulu for season 3. And Kevin Conroy, who does the voice of Batman in the animated series, is going to be playing a live-action version of Batman in CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of interesting news surrounding that, but we'll get into it later.
Right, as always, you can go ahead and check out our episode description where you can see the chapter times for each topic that we talk about if you want to skip around.
Yeah, if this is an old episode, definitely skip to the duel part. The news is old.
Yeah, you don't want to hear about old news. Come on.
But before we get into that, we want to give a quick shout out to everyone who gave us ratings on Apple Podcasts.
Of which that was actually no one. We still have 131 ratings. But we did get one awesome review by Beats on Apple Podcasts. So while it was a bummer that we didn't get any new ratings and we're not any closer to our goal of 200 ratings on iTunes, we are very grateful to Beats for that awesome review.
Yeah.
You're the MVP of this episode, Beats.
Yeah, more reviews means more exposure, as does more ratings.
Right. But more ratings means that we get closer to 200, which is the criteria that Rotten Tomatoes has set for us in order to become eligible to become Rotten Tomatoes critics and have our reviews of the Marvel and DC films count toward those tomato meters. It's a huge goal of ours. As always, if you guys could share us with your friends and family, people that you think would enjoy the show, the quicker we'll be more likely to hit that goal.
Yeah, if we could hit 200 ratings before the end of the year, that would be amazing.
It would be incredible. If we could hit it before next week, that would be even better.
Yeah, forget the end of the year. Next
70 ratings in the next week.
We could do it.
You guys could do it. We believe in you. With that all out of the way,
quick, to the No Prize. So No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is the digital award that we post on social media that I add a drawing to for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week.
Last week's question was a ripoff of the previous week's question, which was Marvel-based. This one is, which DC Comics character that has never been on screen before do you most hope gets their own film in the next 5 years? A lot of great answers this week.
Yeah, we're going to start things off with an honorable mention to Jamie Wojcik, who gave the answer Batman Beyond.
I would love to see a live-action Batman Beyond.
If you could get Michael Keaton to play Bruce Wayne, too, that would be a dream come true.
Honorable mention also goes to Alan Gibson, who gave the answer Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew, which I suspect is a joke answer.
That's a really obscure answer. Good on you, Alan Gibson.
It would make a great 3D animated movie, though, in the vein of Big Hero 6.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We'll be getting more into the Zoo Crew later on in this year, actually during our Holiday Duel episode.
Right. Yeah, we'll talk more about that later. Honorable mention goes to Caleb Albers, who gave the answer Hawkman. That would be really cool. Hawkman, that's a great answer.
I mean, technically he's been on the CW show, but
right.
So many superheroes have. Yeah. We haven't seen him on the big screen.
Right.
And if they could do that well, that would be fantastic.
It would be. It would be like Cloud Atlas meets Conan the Barbarian.
Oh my gosh. Sold. Take my money. Dustin Balcom gave the answer of Booster Gold. He's, of course, a time traveler. You can learn more about him in our Booster Gold versus Cable episode.
Yeah, and Dustin suggested that if they go with this time travel hero, he could help fix the DC timeline since it appears to be in disarray right now with the new Batman movie coming out.
Not a horrible idea at all. Aaron Alexander Jones gave the answer of Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, the Ted Kord version.
I'm a bigger fan of the Jamie Reyes version, but I love the dynamic between Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. So yeah, that would be a great buddy comedy.
And Joel Seagrave gave the same answer.
Jeremy Orr answered with Blue Beetle, the Jamie Reyes version, which maybe could be a sequel to the Blue and Gold movie.
Well, Ted Kord would have to die in that.
That's fine.
That would make people sad.
Whatever.
Mike A. Fitzgerald gave the answer of Ambush Bug, which You could almost do like a Deadpool kind of movie based on him.
Because he breaks the fourth wall, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Bubba Wheat gave the answer of Vixen. I think she's been in some of the CW DC shows.
Yeah, she's been in Legends of Tomorrow, just like Hawkman.
And she had her own miniseries, I think, online, right?
Yeah, it was animated.
Yeah, she's a great character. You could definitely do a movie on her in the same vein of like Black Panther or something like that. Because she's from Africa, if I'm correct.
Yeah, she is.
Bodo Winter gave the answer of Mixie Spitlick, which would be crazy. I think you'd have to throw in some other DC heroes in there.
Well, that's how he sold it. He sold it as an anthology featuring different heroes trapped in a Mixie Spitlick world that kind of realize what's going on and join forces together against him.
Ken Johnson gave the answer Deadman and Zatanna, leading into a Justice League Dark movie. I don't know if he wanted a Deadman movie and a Zatanna movie, or if it was a team-up, but I love both of those answers. So.
Yeah, just do it like Avengers style.
Yeah.
Jason Brownlee gave the answer of Swamp Thing, which would also lead into a Justice League Dark film, although that kind of broke the rules of the question because we've seen live-action Swamp Things both on the small screen and the big screen.
Yeah, but that was in the 80s. No one remembers the 80s. We're all on coke.
His TV show is going on right now.
Yeah, but that's on the small screen. We're talking about big screen.
Tim Brown gave the answer of the Legion of Superheroes. It's like Star Trek, but with superheroes. That's actually a great answer. If they ever did a live-action Legion of Superheroes TV show or movie, that would be awesome.
Harrison Fox gave the answer of Static Shock.
Well, his name is just Static. You may know him from the cartoon Static Shock.
Oh, I did not know that.
No. Jeff Miles Jr. also said Static. Honestly, I'm still hoping he'll pop up in the Black Lightning TV show. They have similar power sets, and I think Static was inspired by Black Lightning.
From the comics?
Yeah, Static was sort of Black Lightning's sidekick in the Young Justice cartoon series.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Andrew Jason Allen gave the answer of Red Hood, and you could have a cameo in that movie by the Joker, maybe by Joaquin Phoenix.
Pink Shoes Rock of Instagram gave the answer of Animal Man. That is a fantastic answer. Now, she specified that she wanted to see an animated film, but I could go either way. The animated shorts that they have of him on DC Universe are so hilarious. I've seen them like 50 times each.
Really?
Yeah, they're really good.
Honorable mention also goes to Colby Hinchis, who gave the answer Jon Stewart in a Green Lantern Corps movie, which I think is kind of in the works. They're planning on that.
It's been in the works for years.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. We know that.
Shut your mouth. Kenneth McNeese Jr. gave the answer of the Terrifics, which consists of Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Plastic Man, and Phantom Girl.
Really? They formed a team called the Terrifics?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It's essentially our Fantastic Four, and I think he was trying to get us riled up.
Well, I am riled up. No, these are a bunch of nobodies. I don't really care about them.
What? I'm riled up now. Sort of. John Spees gave the answer of Detective Chimp.
I would love to see like an animated film with Detective Chimp.
I want to see live action. I mean, when's the last time we had like a chimpanzee film? You know?
Planet of the Apes.
And those were great films. And finally, Bo Bermudez gave the answer of Mr. Miracle. Now, I actually think this is going to happen. I would be surprised if Mr. Miracle, Scott Free, wasn't the protagonist of the New Gods film written by Ava DuVernay and Tom King.
Or maybe pick Orion as their main character. Or even Darkseid. Who knows?
Yeah, one of those three probably will be the central focus. But the winner of this week's No Prize goes to Jacob Bell for his answer of Martian Manhunter. Now, it's one of the original 7 Justice League members who hasn't been on screen yet.
He has been in Supergirl, the CW show, and he looked fantastic in that show. And it just goes to show how cool he might look with a bigger budget on the big screen.
And I'm also super biased about this answer because it just took me back to my movie pitch that we did for our patrons of a Martian Manhunter film.
Yeah, that was pretty good, actually.
It was really good. It was really good.
Everybody go check out Jonathan's amazing film pitch of Martian Manhunter on patreon.com.
I'm seriously thinking about making that free, available for everyone to listen so that everyone could be like, yes, this needs to be made. Just a tweet storm.
Just forget it, man. It's never going to happen. Your dreams will die.
I know.
Just remember that. Congrats again to Jacob Bell. You are the winner of this week's No Prize. And a quick shout out to Jacob Bell's new podcast, Movie Planet, which you can listen to on Spotify. He just started it. They're about 3 episodes in as of this recording. Check it out. But if you, the listener, want to win your own No Prize, go ahead and stay tuned to later on this episode when we ask another question of the week. Now that that's done, on to the news. All All right, we got confirmation today. It had been long rumored that Andy Serkis was attached to direct the sequel to the Venom film, and today we know that that is now the case.
It was kind of a horribly kept secret.
Yeah, because Tom Hardy was posting on his Instagram images of Andy Serkis. You could tell he was heavily campaigning for him, or he was just trying to break the news early. And now, Andy Serkis, as we know, is the actor behind Gollum in Lord of the Rings, and Caesar in Planet of the Apes, and he also played Ulysses Klaue in Avengers Age of Ultron and the Black Panther films. Now, his character was great in those movies. I think they cut the character all too short when they killed him off, because Klaue, is one of the premier Black Panther villains.
Right.
So I was sad to see him go, but I'm really happy that he's working on this Venom sequel behind the scenes, because if you've seen any of Andy Serkis's directorial work, you'll know that he's actually a pretty damn decent director.
I've only seen The Jungle Book. I'm actually not sure what else he's directed.
It wasn't called The Jungle Book. It was called Mowgli, and it was a Netflix original. It was produced by Warner Brothers, and it was originally going to go to theaters. I think it did go to select theaters, but it was primarily distributed on Netflix, and it was fantastic. The special effects on that movie were amazing, and it told, the full story of The Jungle Book, not just the short section that Disney adapted. I think that Andy Serkis's version of The Jungle Book could stand toe-to-toe with Jon Favreau's version.
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of how just beautiful the movie looks. Andy Serkis has a huge background with special effects. He's one of the pioneers of motion capture technology. So the fact that we have two primary CG characters in Venom and Carnage gets me super excited. And I'm really glad that they went with him for this movie.
Oh, I know. I'm not sure if Tom Hardy did all of the mocap work for Venom.
I don't think he did.
I wouldn't be surprised if Andy Serkis took that upon himself and just made it awesome.
Yeah, he could play Venom and Carnage.
And you'll know he'll find a way to differentiate those two roles just through his movement.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
The guy's just so fantastic.
Now, a lot of people weren't too thrilled with the Venom film. We gave it 3.5 stars, if I remember correctly. We thought it was not great, but it was, pretty good. It was good enough.
It was serviceable.
Yeah, it made a shit ton of money at the box office, though. Over $800 million, if I'm not mistaken. So it obviously was going to warrant a sequel, and I am really excited to see the character of Carnage. We'll definitely have to do a Carnage versus somebody duel around that time that movie drops, which should be around October of next year, 2020.
Hopefully, if this movie is as well made as I hope it will be, considering who's involved, Kevin Feige will be a little bit more willing to allow this version of the character into the MCU.
Yeah, that would be great. Now, Ruben Fleischer was the director of the first film, but he wasn't able to direct the second one because they want to start production on that this fall, and Ruben Fleischer will be busy with post-production and promotion of Zombieland 2, which that trailer just released this past week, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
But that does it for this news. This past week, we also learned that Cloak and Dagger are going to make a guest appearance on Runaways Season 3. Now, we reviewed Runaways Season 2 at the start of this year. The new season comes out at the end of this year, and we'll be reviewing Season 3 at the start of 2020. As you guys may know, I'm not the hugest fan of the Runaways television show. I think there's not enough superheroics and just too much just teenage drama bullshit that I don't care about.
Right.
But, we're committed to reviewing all of these streaming shows and movies, whether we want to or not.
But you like Cloak and Dagger.
I really like Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger is like a much better version of the Runaways show, I think. Because although they're completely different characters, they handle a lot of like the same teenage angst topics. And Cloak and Dagger just handles things so much better in every way.
And they met in the comics.
Right, exactly. I think within the first 12 issues of the Runaways comic series by Brian K. Vaughan, Cloak and Dagger were contacted by the Pride to help find their children because they knew that Cloak and Dagger were like premier superheroes to deal with child issues. That's what Cloak and Dagger kind of focus on.
Helping other Runaways.
Right, exactly. So they managed to track down the Runaways, and of course they had the obligatory superhero battle before they learned that it was all just a big misunderstanding. And the Runaways convinced Cloak and Dagger to go back to New York to tell the rest of the heroes about this crime organization known as the Pride, but their minds are erased before they're able to do so. I don't know if the show is going to follow the exact same arc as the comics did, but these characters just belong together. And I think Tandy and Tyrone, the actors that play them, Aubrey Joseph and Olivia Holt, they have such great chemistry together, and I think they'll add a wonderful dynamic to the cast of the Runaways as well. What's so cool about this is at the end of Cloak and Dagger Season 2, allegedly these guys are going to be like full-fledged superheroes. And so they're going to be able to kind of show the Runaways the ropes because the Runaways are still just fucking around.
Right. Yeah, I haven't seen anything from Cloak and Dagger. I just am familiar with the characters based off of our Duel episode where we put them against the Wonder Twins.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
I do think they're cool characters, so I am actually looking forward to these crossover episodes. Those are probably the only episodes I'll be looking forward to.
Yeah, because let's face it, The Runaways is not our show. We said in our season 2 review that it probably appeals more to the demographic that it's aimed toward, and you and I are just two old men that don't get it.
Apparently. Makes me feel old.
Although I do get Cloak and Dagger. It's a great show. If you haven't watched Cloak and Dagger, definitely check that out. But that brings us to our question of the week. Name 2 other Marvel television shows or 2 other DC television shows that you would have liked to have seen crossover that haven't already.
Post your answer to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. We'll pick our favorite answer next week and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media. And speaking of television crossovers, in our last bit of news, Kevin Conroy is going to play a live-action Batman in the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event. Now, we don't know what version of the character he's going to be playing, but how cool would it be if you played like a live-action version of the animated character that he voices?
Well, isn't Kevin Conroy a little bit old to be playing a live-action version of the animated series Batman?
I mean, if you put his face behind a mask, you can't really tell. Just keep him in the shadows. He's Batman.
We have a lot of like seasoned actors playing Batman in the upcoming months here. We have Kevin Conroy, who of course has played the character, since the animated series first debuted back in the early 90s. But there's also Ian Glenn from Game of Thrones, who's going to be playing Bruce Wayne on Titans season 2.
Well, I've heard that we're not going to see Ian Glenn in the Cape and Cowl on the Titans show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, bummer.
But I think we will see Kevin Conroy. And for all I know, maybe he's the Batman that's in the universe of the new Batwoman show.
Oh, interesting.
They're also bringing in Brandon Routh as Superman again, but he's playing the Kingdom Come version.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what is the show going to do when the Kingdom Come version of Superman meets the CW version of the Atom?
They're not going to worry about it.
They're going to be like, oh, we're twins.
Yeah.
All right. It'll be interesting to see Routh back in the role.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually recently saw Superman Returns again because, Apple was having the sale on DC movies, and so I got, a whole bunch of Batman and Superman movies, including Superman Returns, and I have to say, his Superman was pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's just the film that sucked.
Yeah, but, it felt like Superman in a way that, Henry Cavill's never really has, and I was really surprised by that. It just seems so much more true to character in a way that Henry Cavill's hasn't yet.
Or ever will, since he's not in the role anymore, allegedly.
Maybe, yeah. I'm definitely interested in reviewing Superman Returns down the line.
Yeah, I've only seen it once, so... Yeah,
what?
I'll watch it again.
Wow. And the last bit of news for this item, Marv Wolfman, who wrote Crisis on Infinite Earths back in the 80s, is co-writing one of the episodes, the Arrow episode.
That's pretty cool.
It is incredible that they're actually bringing on comic book talent to help with the stories that they did decades ago in comic book form.
Now, does Marv Wolfman have any other screen credits?
Yeah, I think he helped out with the Blade movies and the Blade TV show.
Oh, that's right, he did. Yeah, I remember that.
And he's also done a few animated features for DC, like Teen Titans: The Judas Contract.
Oh, okay. Well, he's a great talent. Can't wait to hear about how that crossover event unfolds with his writing and with Kevin Conroy as Batman.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching it, and I'll definitely give my opinion of it once it's over.
It'll be just so cool to hear Batman's real voice coming out of a live-action actor.
Yeah, it's going to be insane.
So that does it for all the news. Let's go ahead and get into our main event, where we find out once and for all who would win in a fight between Ares and Loki. Alright, I'm super excited about this matchup, not only because are we dealing with super powerful characters here, we're dealing with characters with somewhat vague power sets. There's a little bit of flexibility in exactly what they can do, but what they can do is make life living hell for Wonder Woman and Thor.
And probably each other.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to this too. I feel like it's been a while since we've done a Duel episode.
Yeah, not since Batwing versus Spider-Man, which was before Comic-Con, so it has been a while. If you guys are new to the show, the way we determine a winner between these two characters is through statistics. We take their statistics and we put them in a probabilistic model known as a Monte Carlo simulation, which randomizes their base stat numbers along a normal distribution, which is a bell curve, and compares those numbers 1,000 times. So we have 1,000 simulated battles between the characters, and from that we get a percentage of wins for each character, and we determine the overall winner to be the character with the highest percentage of wins.
Now, no character ever wins 100% of the battles. There's always a way for one character to defeat another.
Yeah, as we've seen in the comics. And we find that this mathematical model does a great job of illustrating that.
Yeah, this method is used across a variety of applications, including like business risk analysis and video game AI. It was used by Spike TV's Deadliest Warrior television series about 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's where we got the idea for this.
So the winner isn't decided by fan votes. We don't consider uncharacteristic feats of strength. It's base statistics for the characters, which we get from the Marvel Power Grid.
Right, and those are official ratings, and we use those criteria that they give to extrapolate the DC character stats.
And we incorporate a few more statistics just to make a more robust simulation.
Before we run these simulations, we like to go into the backgrounds and powers of each character so you get to know them,
followed up by an improvised speculation of how we think one of the 1,000 simulation battles will go. Now, I think I start first with my profile of Ares.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's hear it.
So the DC Comics version of Ares was created and introduced in the comics in 1942, though from his second appearance up until the late 80s, he went by his Roman name, Mars.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't until George Perez's reinvention of the Wonder Woman character that Ares was restored to his Greek moniker and dressed in the iconic blue and black armor that comic fans are familiar with today. Ares was born as the god of war to Zeus and Hera of the Greek pantheon, who resided on Mount Olympus in the dimensional plane known as Skyland, which is in the sphere of gods outside of the multiverse. Growing up, he fell in love with the Greek goddess of beauty and love, Aphrodite, with whom he fathered twin sons, Phobos and Deimos. Fear and dread, essentially. As time went on, however, Ares was slowly driven mad due to his role as the god of war and his absorption over time of violent psychic energies. He left Olympus and formed his own realm, the Areopagus, from where he could observe and corrupt mankind into warring with one another, allowing him to derive indirect worship through the act of war itself. Aphrodite, in an effort to prevent Ares from creating an eternal war, created a new ageless race of women, the Amazons, from ocean clay. The Amazons emerged from the sea, like Aphrodite, and formed a peaceful city-state named Amazonia, where they taught love and inspired mankind. They were protected by their queen, Hippolyta, who was given a golden girdle that made her invincible. Enraged by the effectiveness of the Amazons in quelling mankind's bloodlust, Ares influenced Hercules to send his army to Amazonia, where he lost in a one-on-one combat with Hippolyta. She was impressed with Hercules' fighting prowess, however, and invited his men into their city, where the Amazons were drugged, raped, and enslaved after Hercules stole Hippolyta's golden girdle. Angry with Hippolyta for being so easily seduced, Aphrodite allowed the Amazons to remain enslaved for decades, until a plea from Hippolyta softened the goddess's heart, and Aphrodite returned the golden girdle to her. Hippolyta led the Amazons to an easy victory against their captors, stealing Hercules' fleet of ships and sailing away to find a new land for them to settle outside the realm of men. They settled on the hidden island paradise of Themyscira, protected from men, yet also unaware of Ares' continued manipulations of the world's political leaders, resulting in multiple world wars.
So just like the Wonder Woman movie, Ares was behind those wars.
Yes, yeah. By the time World War II broke out, the Amazonian champion known as Wonder Woman, who you can learn more about in our Wonder Woman vs. Thor episode, emerged on the scene to take up the Amazonian mission of stopping Ares' influence. Despite enlisting his children or descendants to help thwart Wonder Woman, Ares' plans were often stopped by her, though Ares maintained his power thanks to mankind's never-ending supply of conflict and violence. While faith-based deities like Zeus and Hera became weaker over time, the power of Ares, Aphrodite, and Athena, thanks to the rise of technology, increased, and the three of them took over Olympus as its new rulers. During the height of the Cold War, Ares attempted to initiate World War III by firing 2 simultaneous missiles aimed at the United States and Russia from Themyscira, situated between the 2 countries, using Wonder Woman's unwitting romantic interest, Steve Trevor. Wonder Woman, while in battle with Ares, managed to get her golden lasso of truth around him, allowing him to realize that a world war involving nuclear weapons would result in his own annihilation, as there would be no one left for him to draw power from any longer. He subsequently tasked Wonder Woman with a new mission, to save humanity from itself, with a promise to return if he noticed her failing at her task. Ares decided after that to cause conflict at a much smaller scale by possessing a human body and going by the name Ares Buchanan, a criminal who climbed the business underworld as a weapons distributor. During this time, he impregnated the Wonder Woman villain Serkis, whom he tried to kill when he learned she was bearing his child. In retaliation, Serkis created a black hole using magic that captured and banished Ares. Wonder Woman helped deliver the child, whom Serkis named Leda, after Wonder Woman's mother, Hippolyta. The new mother and her infant daughter took up residence on Themyscira to live under the Amazon's protection. Years later, Ares returned during a family coup among the gods of Olympus. Ares seized the title of ruler of the underworld from his brother Hades, making him the god of war and death, and granting him command over armies of the undead. He invaded Themyscira and kidnapped his daughter, forcing Serkis to join his side once again and raise their daughter in the underworld. With his increased power, Ares imbued Cassie Sandsmark, aka the teenage hero Wonder Girl, with a portion of his power, making her his champion. Ares was also able to reach into the future and bring back Wonder Woman's dead body, reanimating it to serve as his new bride and personal warrior, resulting in the villain known as Genocide. Genocide nearly killed Wonder Woman, though the hero was able to drown her in the ocean while Ares attacked Themyscira once more. Wonder Woman confronted Ares and killed him with an axe to the head.
Damn.
His spirit moved on to an afterlife reserved for gods, where he was continuously tortured by the souls of those who died in war. Despite this, he was shown as still capable of manipulating events in man's world. In the New 52 reboot of DC continuity, it was revealed that Ares secretly trained Wonder Woman in warfare as a child, and she was forced to kill Ares and absorb his power before Zeus's firstborn son did the same. In the following rebirth era of DC Comics, Ares has returned, and it was revealed that he was imprisoned inside the tree on Themyscira for millennia, and that the prior instances in which Wonder Woman encountered Ares, she actually faced one of his sons in disguise as him. Ares eventually escaped imprisonment thanks to Darkseid's daughter, Grail, and her god-killer sword. Powers-wise, Ares is both immortal and invulnerable. He cannot be harmed by mortal weapons or attacks. His strength level is near infinite, and he has cosmic level awareness. He can teleport, fly, and manipulate fire, electricity, and darkness. He can alter his physical form into any other form he chooses, and he can mentally influence anyone, especially if they have violent tendencies or are in his proximity. He can cast illusions, and he can transform any object or material into armor or weapons. His greatest weakness, of course, is love. And I don't see that being offered by
Oh, that's gonna happen. Yeah,
Loki.
yeah. Loki's gonna love Ares. He's gonna love beating the shit out of him.
There you go. Violent tendencies.
So Ares was trapped in a tree for a while.
Oh, like for all of history. Yeah.
What a ripoff.
Really?
Yeah, because let me get into the history of Loki. Now, Loki Laufeyson was born in the ice realm of Jotunheim to the king of the frost giants, Laufey, and his wife Queen Farbauti. Loki was short for a frost giant and was an embarrassment to his parents, often ridiculed. Secluded and full of anger, Loki manipulated events during a war between Jotunheim and Asgard so that his father Laufey would be killed by Odin, who would then adopt Loki as his own son.
Oh, wow.
Alongside Thor, whom you can learn more about in our Wonder Woman vs. Thor Duel episode. Now, Loki and Thor and the rest of the inhabitants of the 9 realms of Norse mythology are in a constant cycle of death and rebirth, which takes place over the course of millennia, though the current cycle in the Marvel Comics universe was halted by Thor during the events of the most recent Ragnarok, or Twilight of the Gods. This is just to say that much of Thor's and Loki's early years have been lost to myth over the course of thousands of years. What is known, however, is that Loki's fate of feeling unwanted did not really change despite his new family. The Asgardians, being a race of warriors, favored strength and courage above all else, traits which Thor excelled in and Loki lacked. Loki's gifts were in his intelligence and magical aptitude, and he trained into becoming one of Asgard's most powerful sorcerers. Over the years, Loki's jealousy of Thor grew and reached its pinnacle when Odin gifted his real son with the mighty Uru hammer Mjolnir, enchanted so that only the worthy could wield it. This perceived snub by Odin transformed Loki's anger and jealousy into evil, and Loki vowed to become Asgard's most powerful god, to kill his brother Thor, and to rule the realm. His mischievous crimes once caused Odin to imprison him in a tree as punishment, proclaiming that Loki would only be freed when someone shed a tear for him. After many years, Loki's influence caused a leaf to fall from the tree and poke the Asgardian Heimdall in the eye, causing him to tear up. Loki was then free from his prison and free to wreak havoc on his brother in the modern era. He was delighted to learn that Odin had banished Thor to Earth in mortal form as Dr. Donald Blake. He fought Thor often and often lost, but was persistent. At times when Loki was forbidden to travel the realms for his misdeeds, he would manipulate other beings on Earth into doing his bidding. One of these manipulations involved the simple-minded Hulk, who is tricked into fighting Thor, Iron Man, Ant-Man, and the Wasp. After the ruse behind Hulk's mindset was discovered, the heroes teamed up to defeat Loki and ended up forming the Avengers. And you can learn more about the history of that team in our Justice League vs. Avengers Duel episode. Loki continued pursuing his goal of defeating Thor no matter how many times he was imprisoned on Asgard. He created or conned a vast majority of Thor's rogues gallery, including the Enchantress and Executioner, the Absorbing Man, Mr. Hyde, and the Destroyer armor. He even successfully seized Asgard's throne on multiple occasions, though was never able to hold onto it for too long, as Loki was never able to defeat his father Odin. A day came, though, when Odin was slain in battle by the fire demon Surtur, and Thor became the new king of Asgard. Loki was pissed. Loki set Ragnarok into motion by stealing the forge that created Mjolnir and granted the enemies of Asgard with powerful weapons. Loki used one of these to kill Baldur, Thor's friend, signaling the twilight of the gods. The Asgardians all perished in battle against Loki and the fire demon Surtur, and Thor hung himself from the Yggdrasil world tree in a sacrificial quest for knowledge. Thor went to Hel, the Asgardian realm of the dead, where he met Odin and was granted his power, the Odin Force, which he used to behead Loki, destroy the world tree, and confront the mysterious deities that fed off the Asgardian cycle of death and rebirth, and put an end to them. The 9 realms were no more. Eventually, Thor was summoned from his eternal slumber by the physician Donald Blake, and he restored Yggdrasil and all the lives that perished in Ragnarok, including Loki. Asgard was rebuilt on Earth in Oklahoma, and Loki was reborn as a woman, having stolen the host body of Thor's lover, Lady Sif. As Lady Loki, he joined Norman Osborn's dark reign of superheroics after the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he convinced the Dark Avengers to lay siege to Asgard, planning on Osborn's failure to cause Asgard to move back into its proper realm. However, Loki underestimated the power of the Sentry's alter ego, the Void, and he was killed. However, Loki had a contingency in place after striking a deal with Hela, the goddess of death, and he was reborn, back as a male, though in a younger teenage form, unaware of his previous misdeeds. When Thor died in battle against the Serpent during the Fear Itself storyline, the young Loki revived him. He even became semi-heroic as a member of the Young Avengers, before being consumed by an echo of the spirit of his previous self. So he's still in a younger body, but he's back to being a shithead, basically.
Okay.
As an Asgardian, Loki possesses much greater natural abilities than normal humans. Though he's not the strongest Asgardian, only able to lift about 50 tons, he can temporarily enhance his strength through magic, to the point where he can destroy a building with a punch. He also has increased durability, speed, and healing, but it's rare that he ever relies on these physical facets. His greatest power is in his sorcery, and he can use his magic for a variety of effects. This includes shapeshifting, illusion casting, teleportation, matter transmutation, telepathy, hypnosis, intangibility, telekinesis, manipulation of mystical energies such as blasts and shields. He can also use his magic to imbue objects and people with powers of their own. He's able to hold his own in battle as he is a reasonable hand-to-hand combatant, and he also often carries some form of bladed weapon, whether it be a pair of daggers, a lance, or his sword, Levitain. I've seen him use a whip, too. Loki possesses a genius intellect and is an extremely cunning manipulator and strategist.
I guess that's one thing I didn't mention about Ares, is that Ares is also a master strategist.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that. He's the god of war. Of course he is.
Right.
So they're fairly similar in their power sets, though, it seems like.
Yeah, they could both basically do anything.
This is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So now that we've gone over the histories and abilities, let's go ahead and go into our improvised speculation of how a battle would go. We set no rules for this scenario, save for the fact that the characters know nothing about each other other than that they know that each other are threats that need to be put down. And the characters start about 50 meters apart from each other at the start of the battle.
And you'll know if you've listened to our Wonder Woman versus Thor episode that the speculations are not what decide the results of the simulations. This is just for funsies.
Yeah, it's how we imagine one of these fights would go. The fight takes place in a basically non-environment. It's what we call no environment because we don't take stats for their surroundings. And as we know, environment plays a huge factor in any battle.
Yes, and since some characters can have an advantage in certain environments over others, it's too big of a variable. These characters are going to fight and win on their own merits, not because of their surroundings.
So let's go ahead and get into it. Ares versus Loki. Who goes first? I think Ares would go first just because, he's the god of war, he's a big angry guy, and Loki is a little bit more mischievous. He might wait and see what happens and react accordingly.
Yeah, Loki's a little bit more cunning. I would say Ares is definitely a little bit more brash. So what he does first is he conjures up a huge ass sword in one hand and then force chokes Loki with the other and pulls him right towards him so that he can impale him with his sword.
Okay, so Loki's getting pulled toward Ares. So Loki just teleports out of Ares' telekinetic grip and appears directly behind Ares, brandishing a golden lance, and he plunges the lance forward and stabs Ares right in the back.
Okay, stab him in the back just like a coward?
Oh yeah,
all right.
Yeah, he's not above that, for sure.
Okay, well, as Ares is about to be stabbed, he turns into a puff of smoke and he swirls around the lance and Loki, and then reforms around Loki in a chokehold.
Except that before Ares could actually manifest his physical form from his cloud form, his smoke form, Loki summons this gust of wind, like a whirlwind around him, and just kind of blows the smoke away. So Ares is far away now.
He can control where he moves. The wind isn't going to affect him.
It's magic wind. It affects him.
Okay, yeah, magic does affect Ares. Okay, then, as he's getting blown away, that's when he reforms himself, along with a bunch of other duplicate Ares around Loki. They manifest these spears and these shields like Spartans, and they slowly march in towards Loki.
Oh, like a phalanx?
Yes.
Okay, that's fascinating. That's really cool, actually. I like that move. As the phalanx come in towards Loki, he just flies straight up into the air above their spears. And then he shoots down this green magic fire blast that kind of just incinerates the whole phalanx of Ares clones.
Okay, well, joke's on you. Ares can control fire. So Ares is on fire, but that green fire slowly starts to turn red. Okay. And then he collects that red fire and he forms into this long fiery chain with a hook at the end, and he throws it up to Loki.
Okay, Ghost Rider.
and yanks him down to the ground.
Okay, so Loki gets pulled to the ground with this fiery hook chain stuck into him. He grabs the hook and using his natural frost giant powers, he freezes the chain and the fire dissipates. And he transmutes this chain into a large serpent.
What?
And the serpent grows and it tries to bite Ares. It starts attacking Ares.
Okay, so Ares grows bigger and then he just chokes the life out of the snake and he turns it into this poisonous spear, which he hurls at Loki as he shrinks back down to normal size.
Okay, so Loki gets stabbed, we'll say, in the shoulder, somewhere non-vital,
okay,
with this poisonous spear. He rips it out.
And now he's poisoned.
And but he casts this spell of healing over his wound so that the poison doesn't take him. Loki takes the spear and he pierces it into the ground, opening up this green fissure that cracks and spreads toward Ares and opens the ground beneath him, and Ares falls into this crevice in the ground that's now there. So he's like falling inside the fissure now.
Okay, as he's like sinking into the fissure, he creates this like double-pronged spear that like stops.
All you do is create weapons.
Yeah, it's fucking Ares. So that stops his descent. Then he uses it to like launch himself into the air out of the fissure. And as he's about to land on Loki, he fashions these twin battle axes. And he just slams them right into Loki.
No, what he does is he crashes into this mystical barrier that Loki had already set up as he saw Ares about to fly on top of him.
Okay, well, Ares just keeps hammering away at that barrier with enough strength that it starts cracking.
And then right as Ares busts through the barrier, Loki just disappears and reappears like 20 yards away, ready to throw one of his twin daggers at Ares.
Okay, so Ares notices that Loki is gone, but he senses Loki's violent intent. So as the blade is about to reach him, he just turns around and grabs it out of the air.
Well, his senses must be shit, because guess what? That was an illusion. Loki was still underneath the barrier that he initially created. He didn't actually reappear 20 yards away and throw the dagger. He's still standing right in front of him, and he fucking impales Ares right through the chest with his sword, Levitain. Deception. The dagger throw was just a diversion.
Okay, that was a good move.
Hell yeah, it was.
Okay, so Ares is hurt.
Yeah.
You know, but that's when he grows like this long sword blade out of his battle axes, and he has two of them to go up against Loki. Bring it on. They start sword fighting, and since Ares is a master of every martial art form and military tactic, he easily trounces Loki.
Except Ares wasn't prepared during their sword fight for Loki's secret whip that he conjured out, wrapped around Ares' legs and yanked, tripping Ares onto the ground.
So,
and then while Ares is on the ground, Loki turns into this giant wolf, kind of like his son, Fenris Wolf, and he just pounces on top of Ares and starts just like choking the shit out of him and ripping him to shreds.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so as Ares is being mauled by this wolf, he saves himself by zapping it with this lightning blast.
Oh, Loki does not like lightning blasts.
And then Ares himself turns into like this giant like demonic ram. And then he just charges Loki as the wolf.
Well, that's a mistake. Don't you know that wolves eat rams?
Not demon rams. Demon rams could totally annihilate wolves.
All right, so the wolf charges the ram who's charging him, and I'm pretty sure as wolves are natural predators of rams, that the wolf's probably gonna win.
Not demon rams. Are they? Are they predators of rams?
Well, rams are sheep. Wolves eat sheep.
Not demon sheep.
Demon sheep. Okay, well, let's go ahead and leave the match there. Either Loki wins in his giant wolf form, or Ares wins in his giant demon sheep form.
Ram. Demon ram. The demon ram is better. Giant horns, you know.
All right, we'll run the simulations and come back to you guys with a winner. All right, that was kind of fun.
That was fun.
Like, I'm always a little bit nervous before the episodes where the characters can do so many things that I'm, like, hampered by indecision, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, characters like Dr. Fate or the Spectre.
Right.
Those are definitely always a challenge. Mm-hmm. But I agree, this was a good match.
It was also a lot of fun putting in the characters' stats. They weren't nearly as comparable as I perhaps initially thought they were when we first conceived of this Duel episode. There are a lot of differences here. Now, they're comparable in terms of, like, speed and range, but they have a lot of differences here. One of the main things that I thought Loki had a leg up on was the fact that he's a master sorcerer. So he can do a lot of different, like, trickery and magic things that Ares doesn't typically do, being more of a hand-to-hand combatant.
I wouldn't say Ares is non-magical.
Right.
He actually uses a lot of elements at his disposal pretty often.
Yeah. In the end, the two were comparable in terms of their ability to inflict massive amounts of damage despite how they go about doing it.
They're gods, after all.
Right. We said Ares was stronger, but Loki was smarter, and Loki was better at evading attacks through his illusion casting and trickery.
But Ares is a better fighter.
Right. So a lot of back and forth here. Really excited to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, I have the results on hand. Who do you think came out the victor?
I think that is pretty damn close. I'm going to go with, I don't know. I feel like Ares took this one. Even though I want Loki to win, just something in my gut feeling tells me Ares won.
Well, it would be hard to take out in battle the God of War. And you're right. Ares won 563 matches out of 1,000.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was closer than I thought. Loki won 437 or 43.7% of the matches.
That's not bad. That's not bad. That's not a bad Duel episode right there. Between these two legends of myth, I'm bummed that Loki lost, but I'm glad that he put up a damn good fight.
I actually thought it was going to be closer than this.
Really? I mean, it's pretty damn close. What are you talking about? It's within like 8%. Is that right? No.
It's actually over 10%. Because once you cross the 55% mark...
Yeah,
then...
whatever. I've been to school. We all know how math works.
But no, yeah, Loki did put up a good fight. In the end, Loki just couldn't handle the awesome might that is DC Divinity.
Oh, DC Divinity, is that your new stripper name?
It totally would be. Yes.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode, guys. Go ahead and let us know what you guys thought of the matchup by reaching out to us via social media on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and you can email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. As always, you can find us on social media by visiting dynamicduel.com and clicking those links there. And you know what? I'm pretty sure that Tom Hiddleston could still kick David Thewlis's ass.
Oh, the actor who played Ares in Wonder Woman?
Yeah. So we got that going for us, at least.
I don't know. If you visit our website, you could also find a link to our merchandise store, which is on TeePublic. And just a heads up, they're having a big flash sale on August 8th and 9th.
Right, so if you've ever wanted some Dynamic Duel merch,
this weekend is that time.
Right, you can get cell phone cases, you can get t-shirts,
pillows,
laptop cases.
Who doesn't want an Ares pillow?
I don't, actually. But you could get a Loki pillow. Everybody wants a fucking Loki pillow.
An Ares pillow would be great in a pillow fight. Like, automatically winning right there.
All right, guys, in our next episode, we will be reviewing the DC animated film that has come out, Batman Hush, which was a fantastic story. Can't wait to review this film. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, neither have I. Hopefully it's on DC Universe. I haven't checked recently.
Yeah, if not, we'll have to rent it or something.
Yeah, but we'll definitely be reviewing it.
So look forward to that. And again, if you guys could share the podcast and subscribe to it if you haven't, rate us and review us, especially on Apple Podcasts. That's much appreciated.
Yeah, big shout out to those of you who have shared us on your social media accounts. We always see it. We always like it. It's a huge honor.
All right, talk to you guys next week.
Up and away.
True believers.